Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Girls Heal. So, today I actually got a request from a listener for a topic. Sometimes I send out listservs and I have polls for people to tell me what is it that you would like to hear coming up. And so this request had multiple different requests, but she asked for me to talk about it being okay to not be okay. And I'm assuming when it comes to the context for that was either based in our current times or when it comes to showing up in relationships that maybe aren't showing up in the way that you would want them to, or just like general dysphoria that may be happening with us. And when I read the request, something in me kind of jumped and wanted to resist it. And if you have listened to this podcast in any capacity, I think one of the underlying ways that I've constantly validated everyone's experience is that what has happened to you, what is going on with you, any pain or discomfort that you have is legitimate. It is valid. I encourage you to feel it, process it so that you can get to the other side of it and to not let anybody gaslight you that you shouldn't be feeling that way or that it's not right for you to feel this way or all that stuff, right? So I've said that and I believe that. And for today, and for today's episode, for whatever reason, the message that I have today is not going to lean into it's okay to not be okay. Not because your feelings are not valid and not because there's not real craziness happening around us. But I feel right now the hope is the resistance. There are so many things that are systematically, intentionally being structured to make us feel hopeless, to make us feel defeated, to make us feel powerless, to make us feel overwhelmed. There are real things that are happening that are designed and engineered to take away that feeling of agency and to feel like other people, other forces, other things are in power. And so leaning into it's okay to not feel okay and it's okay to feel sad and it's okay to feel defeated. Different times, different moments, yes. But I think right now more than ever, as much as we can, to lean into us taking back our agency and the ways that what we look at and what we focus on and where we build our personal power is so important. It is so important for us to lean into the fact that no, I get to determine my story. I get to determine what I focus on. I get to determine what feels right and true and safe for me. I get to decide where my power lies and what I decide to give energy to. That is what resonates the most for me. And hope being the power behind the resistance that I would want all of us to lean into. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about four small, maybe big ways for you to take that power back when you were feeling not okay. When you are feeling not okay, how can I move into a place of doing something, even in light of what is going on and what might be going on? And my hope in this episode, I'm going to try not to talk a lot about the current state of things, only because my hope is that this episode will be timeless so that no matter what you're going through, that you can apply what I'm saying if it resonates for you in that moment. So before I get into those steps, let me recap a couple of things just based on the notes that I have in front of me right now. So like I said, the world isn't designed for us to feel okay right now. There's a lot of unrest. If you are in a family or relationship system, if you're in a partnership or something with folks who are not attending to you, the ways that they have power is for you to feel destabilized. It's for you to be self-doubtful of what it is that you want, for you to second guess, should I feel this way? Is it okay for me to feel this way? Let me look at their point of views. The ways that other outside people, powers, whatever, get and retain it is for us to look to them to save us instead of us saving ourselves. Instead of us reclaiming, no, I get to be the one that says yes and gets to say no. I get to be the one to tell me which way to go. And I get to be the one to decide whether or not I'm okay with that. You don't get to tell me that I'm okay with that. You don't get to tell me that I get to accept the breadcrumbs that you're giving me, to tell me to wait until later, wait until a time that's most appropriate. to get you to say, well, the other side, these people are the reason why that you are feeling the discomfort that you're feeling. And it's not my fault. What can I do? I'm trying my best. No, you're not trying your best. And I get to call you on that. I get to readjust how I show up in this relationship if I show up at all. And I get to move you out. Whether or not moving you out means ending the relationship, changing my personal boundaries, voting you out, I get to take my power back in that way. I get to reclaim my voice by telling you that this is not okay, by saying what it is that I want, saying what it is that I'm going to receive, and you get to be the one to deal with it. And if you don't, you get to move around. And if you won't move around, I'll do it myself. I want to say too, based on, again, real things that are happening in the world right now and real things that are happening in our relationships in life right now, this move that I'm talking about, this realigning that I'm talking about right now, is not about self invalidation, that gaslighting that I was talking about. This is about true survival. We're not leaning into toxic positive psychology or some spiritual bypassing that tells you to just ignore things, but it's about learning that as long as I have my body and my nervous system, I can start to take back my power with smaller actions like self-soothing, regulating myself, and building a resource in your current time. Now, again, I want to lean into the fact that this might be momentary. I'm going to really encourage you to take these moments to interrupt the overwhelm, to interrupt the future dating of I'll be okay when this happens. I'll be okay when the relationship looks like this. I'll be okay when the country looks like this. I'll be okay when this person is no longer around. I'll be okay when this person is around. How do we chase and find being okay right now? As okay can be. How do we do this right now? And I want to emphasize that hope is active. Hope is not passive. Hope is active. Hope is not, well, I hope one day things get better. The hope that I'm talking about is not freezing. Despair is what freezes. Hope moves. Hope is like, this doesn't have to be this way, and it's actually not going to be this way. So here is what I'm going to create. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm going to choose to feel. So some small actions before I get into the bigger steps. This may lean into the 4 steps, but smaller things are things like going to therapy, setting boundaries, nurturing joy, even when things feel really impossible on the outside. And in a world where it's becoming more and more evident that you cannot control other people, but you can control your response, this is where we take our personal power back. So let's lean into this, or let me talk about these 4 tips for us to decide to integrate if it fits for where we are right now as best as possible. So, the first way that I'm going to suggest for you to use hope as an act of resistance and moving forward and being actionable when things are not okay is to establish small grounding rituals that create predictability. Okay. Establish small grounding rituals that create predictability. So whether or not it is a morning routine, which I know I saw someone like making fun of like people who talk about making morning routines. But if you don't have a morning routine, then of course you're gonna make fun of it because you don't know how freaking grounding that can be, that you can like have something to look forward to. So for people who are not morning people, the way that you adjust that is you say, okay, what is it that I do in afternoon tea? Is it that I have a certain energy drink that I drink every day at the end of my workday? Do I have a nighttime routine? Is there a comfort show? Do I have a comfort show hour? It doesn't have to be a full do these 5 things in the morning, you'll make $1 million. Like it's not one of those things unless that resonates with you. Well, where can you invite some ritual? Where can you invite these moments that are distinctly yours that no one or nothing will get in the way of? That's something that you can control that gives you an anchor in the day, that gives you a moment of peace, a moment of respite. So for me, I have a morning routine, but it doesn't look the same every morning, and I allow myself to reset. But one of the things that I do, like actually does have the same components, but there's flexibility. So in the mornings where I do a meditation practice every morning, But there are some mornings that I just cannot get my brain to settle. And I know that's the purpose of meditation, but I may need to, instead of meditating for 10, 15 minutes, I may need to say, okay, I've done some deep breaths for about 3 to 4 minutes. I need to move into tapping and I need to move into journaling because getting that out of my head is going to help me feel better and make me feel more regulated than trying to sit here and breathe. And then once I do that, now my body feels better. Now my body feels more contained. Now I feel like I can actually think and process and be in my body because I've gotten out all the stuff that has been keeping me really dysregulated. Maybe for you, it's moving your body. Maybe it is going for walks. Maybe it is strength training. Maybe it is gardening, but something that is just for you. Create something that is just for you. And here's what I'll say about that, because that seems very small, and that might be some of the things that we're already doing. Those of us who are listening to this episode because you feel not okay right now, and you're like, that doesn't really create a lot of change for me. I think this is where talking about our mindset and what we focus on and the meaning we make from things can make something that seems so small and insignificant be so meaningful. If I were to look at my morning routine and be like, no matter what happens, this is mine. This morning routine, these moments are mine. I get to have peace right now. I get to do something for me right now. No matter what the world throws at me, this journal is my safe space. My spirit is my own. My mind is my own. I get to take care of myself. I get to spend some moments in gratitude with myself. They can never take me from me, right? If I use that type of language around this 15-minute practice, versus you looking at it as just one more thing on my to-do list, my experience may vary wildly when it comes to that. If I'm someone who exercises just because it's part of a routine and because I want my body to look a certain way, versus if I go into my exercise routine with gratitude, I'm so happy I have access to my limbs. I'm so happy that I have access to breathe and just noticing, wow, I'm breathing without being congested right now. I'm breathing without having any pain in my chest. I'm just so grateful. And I do the same thing I do every day, but with energy of gratitude and mindfulness, it changes that same habit that I built to being something that's more of a spiritual experience, even though it's not technically a spiritual experience. The second thing that I would encourage you to lean into is limiting inputs, people, places, news sources, videos, timelines, things in your FYP that just adds to the stress. If you are on the FYP of people who are having a whole lot of TikTok beef and fighting and all that, and before that would provide you some entertainment, but you notice that it's just feeding this energy around you that nobody can get along and all we do is tear each other down and all this other stuff, that's stressing you out. You can't control what these people are doing and you can't control what they say, but you can control, do I want to live in a world where the people around me, the relationships around me, the examples that I see are people who are just fighting for no reason. I want to be around people who spread positivity. I want to be around people who promote peace, especially in times when things may not be as peaceful or when my other relationships are not peaceful. I get to choose who I give access to and what I choose to feed into my system. The third tip is something that I'm actually personally working on, and I hope to share more with you as I master it. It's been something I've been teaching for a long time, actually, but I have been implementing, but I need to become an expert in it, not only helping other people, but for myself, which is regulating your nervous system. So I know I mentioned this earlier a little bit when I was talking about creating rituals, but really, 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 and also in the intro when I was talking about different examples, but really, if you're able to find a place of calm in your body and to be grounded, no matter what stressors are going on around you, to make it so that you're able to take deep breaths, to stretch, to have moments of prayer, whether or not it's to God, to your ancestors, to spirit, to go and connect to nature. These are how you find moments and periods of oasis, no matter what is going on around you. So imagine if there is a hurricane going on around you, but you are able to be at this moment of zen, of peace, of certainty, of self containment. You are an island where everything is whipping around you, but it's not touching you. In fact, you don't even see it because where you are, there's sunshine, there's green grass, there's a breeze, right? And when you're able to get to that place, your perspective also starts to change. The things that would hit you and trigger you and throw you off base for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week, that you might start to respond in anxiety to and be more reactive instead of proactive, it stops having as much power around you. When you hear other people who are overwhelmed and going off and they're very dysregulated, and maybe you will join in with them and you would start to try to like want to fix them and fix everything that's going on, you're able to step back and see things from a different lens or see things from the same lens, but your response is more measured. For those of us who live in the fight mode, this is so important. For those of us who've learned to be hypervigilant, those of us who've learned to always anticipate what's the next thing coming down the pipeline, to always be in our heads, to get out of our heads and get back into our body with somatic work, with body work is very important. So you can look into body work, somatic work, breath work. I've had several people who've asked me for resources on that, but resources that are within the Black Girls Heal umbrella of programs and services. So there is something coming down the works with that. For those of you who've been asking me about it, that is one of the things that I am working on, especially because, like I said, it is something that is very active in my own personal life. And I want to share with y'all the best practices that work for me, especially someone who is neurodivergent. That consistency has been an issue. And also just been like an onslaught of a lot of different ways that I show up for other people, in addition to showing up for myself and my family and, relationships and stuff like that. So I really look forward to giving a practical way of supporting us in healing our bodies when it can be a very abstract concept. Okay. And then the fourth step is knowing that just showing up is enough. Showing up for yourself, waking up for yourself is enough. I gave a whole lot of action oriented things before. The opening of this episode was a lot of a charge of no, you take your power back. You do this, you do that. Because I wanted us to know that we do have the power. And sometimes when the world feels very heavy or the relationships are overwhelming or we've done everything we can to just stand, shout out to those of you who know that reference. But yeah, when you've done everything you can and you just don't have it, and all you can do is just to wake up in the morning, and all you can do is just to drink your water, when all you can do is just to say thank you for another day, then that is enough. You don't have to be on all of the time. You don't have to be in action all of the time. You get to rest. You get to take a break. You get to pull back. You get to be in a bubble if you need to be in a bubble for however long that is or whatever that looks like. You get to be in charge of you and how you show up. You get to be in charge of what you need from people, or if you don't need anything from people, depending on when you're looking at it or when you're listening to this or on what platform that you are listening to this on YouTube. So I have another podcast called the Business of Healing Podcast, and that is where I help people who are healers and mental health professionals and people who have mission focused brands build their business while also taking care of themselves and giving a behind the scenes look at building a business around your own belief and your own boundaries and preventing burnout and all that kind of stuff. And so if you are either subscribed to the podcast or if you're listening to this on YouTube, one of the things that I'm talking about in that episode or my most recent episode, the time that I'm putting this out, is about if you need to evolve and grow and that requires you pulling back in some type of way, then that's good to nurture that, to feed that, to listen to that, because you know what it is that you need. And it's important for us to spend time listening to that intuition, listening to that voice, because many of us are in seasons of growth and evolution, but we're fighting against it. We're trying to get ourselves to be who we used to be and we're trying to return back to a time that no longer exists. We're trying to be women that we no longer are, and we've changed for the better. And so it's about being curious about that person, learning about her, and building a life and environment around where she is right now that helps her ascend and helps her continue to grow and evolve and be her best self. So that's where some of us are. The reason why we're not okay is because we're fighting this new stage and chapter that we're in. So that's what I have for us today. I hope that you found these tips helpful for those where this was the message that you needed. And if not, as always, take what you need and leave the rest. For those of you who would like to work with me in this next stage of evolution to helping yourself move into your personal power in your relationships, in your life, and healing from trauma, and getting the life and love or relationships that you want, starting with your relationship with yourself and then with others, you can join me in my BGH Method program. It is my new 90-day container. It is taking the place of the Love Addiction Recovery School. I've now helped thousands of women through this process, and I want to help you get the life and love that you want in this next stage and chapter of your life. You can learn more by going to blackgirlsheal.org/method or clicking the link in the caption or the show notes, wherever it is that you're listening to this or watching this. So that's it for now. As always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.